You are listening to the CPA Moms podcast with Dawn Goldberg, CPA. This is episode number 89, the 4-step process when you want to know how. Welcome to the CPA Moms podcast, the podcast where busy female accountants who also happen to be moms like you get practical support and solutions you need to have it all, a successful career and a happy family. If you are looking for the solution to overwhelm and mom guilt, if you'd like to feel better and have more balance, as well as learn how to take back control of your life, you've come to the right place. Hey there, welcome back. I hope you had a great week. And before I get started with this week's show, can we just spend a minute talking about all the benefits of being part of the CPA Moms community? It's incredible what has been going on behind the scenes. So we have the incredible franchise opportunity. We have now a public placement directory. We have a weekly newsletter. We have unlimited CPE. We have a CPE tracker. We have online courses to help you design and plan your future. We have free monthly webinars that we're going to be starting. The first one is in June, and this is all about creating confidence, something that I know accountants and female accountants especially have some issues with. So we're having that free webinar. We have a webinar coming up on June 25th, all about the placement directory if you are interested in hiring our talent. So there are so many things going on. And if you're not part of the community, what are you waiting for? So if you want to join, which I can't imagine why you wouldn't, you can go to cpa-moms.com/community. Okay, so let's get started with this week's episode. This is episode number 89, the 4-step process when you want to know how. So have you ever noticed that, I know I'm definitely one that gravitates, if you're one that gravitates towards articles or stories or even shows that promise to teach you how to do something. That is like my jam. I love that. You may not know this, and I learned this by creating this podcast, but when you're creating a title for a blog or a podcast or anything else that you want to capture people's attention, using the word how in the title is actually highly recommended. And the reason is because we all have the desire for more, especially more knowledge when it comes to being an accountant. We value expertise, how to service our clients and businesses at the highest level, and we value the ability to achieve personal and professional success. And as working moms, we also have the desire for more for ourselves and for our families. And we want to have clear-cut instructions on getting the results that we want. So like seeing a picture on Pinterest of some beautiful water feature in someone's yard, that's interesting. But when you add the title, how to create this in a day, we are hooked. The how-to movement has grown so big that we now have websites like WikiHow dedicated to teaching you how to do almost everything. And we have entire networks like the DIY network to make any home project seem doable. And women especially love how-to information because it makes us feel capable and creative. So the idea of building a rock garden with your kids is one thing, right? Building a rock garden in your backyard is one thing. But you also probably have things that you want to accomplish in your accounting career or in your business or in your life. Maybe you have a dream of being a mompreneur that allows you to create your own schedule and flexibility. Or maybe you want to start your own firm and you want to hire other accountant moms. Well, this all sounds exciting and compelling, but then comes the question of, but how? And that one question can seem like such a big letdown, and it might seem like it's taking the wind out of your sails. It can make it seem too big and complicated, so you end up saying, why bother? Right? The tricky thing about wanting to know how is that your brain will automatically resist any idea that it's unfamiliar with and will transfer responsibility for the how to someone or something outside of you. Even with clear-cut steps on how to do something, it's really important to understand what will actually get you the results that you really want. So this week I'm going to discuss why we have such a strong need to know how and the 4-step process to help you when you want to know how. All right, so let's start with why we have such a strong need to know how. So it's totally understandable, right? That when you have a goal, you also want to know the steps that you need to take in order to ensure your success, especially if you've never done anything like it before. So for example, most people wouldn't order a new piece of furniture from IKEA and then tell the salesperson to not put any instructions in the box, right? That would be crazy. But it's also important to understand that your brain does not like uncertainty at all. Therefore, it's highly motivated to find someone or something that has the answer as quickly as possible. And unfortunately, when faced with ambiguity and a lack of clear-cut answers, your brain sees no other option than to give up. And in our modern time, especially, we have become accustomed to being told how to do almost everything. And I can laugh now when I think back. There's actually a picture of me giving my first child a bath with the book, What to Expect the First Year. And this book was it was propped up on the changing table so that I could follow each step on how to give her a bath. I was so afraid. I was so afraid of doing it wrong and not trusting my own judgment that I literally read each step in the book, did the task, moved to the next step, and on and on and on. I never bathed a baby before, and there was no way that I wanted to mess up bathing my own child. Can you relate to this? Is there something that you didn't trust yourself to do right with your children, so you asked for very specific instructions in order to ensure that you did it right? I'm sure that most moms can relate to needing to know how, especially when you had your first child. And there's nothing wrong with needing to know how when you've never done something before, like I said, but the issue is when needing to know how stops you from moving forward at all with a goal or giving up when it gets difficult. If you've ever found yourself saying something like, I would, but I don't know how, then I am speaking to you. This podcast is for you. On the one hand, it makes sense that your brain would gravitate towards predictability because it appears to take less effort. But on the other hand, there is so much that you abdicate and miss out on because you either don't try due to not knowing how, or you face some obstacles and you quit because it's just too challenging. But let's face it, we would all love a guaranteed formula for success that we can follow because it doesn't require us to fail, to handle obstacles, or to deal with confusion and doubt. But just be clear that your brain is highly motivated to expend as little energy as possible, and it either wants to be told how or it doesn't even want to try. The sneaky thing about knowing how to do something is that it isn't enough. For example, you can be told how to drive a stick shift car, but until you try and fail and keep practicing, you're never going to succeed with just the knowledge of how it's done. Same thing goes for any goal or dream that you have. How someone else achieved something that you want isn't the definitive way that you need to or should follow. I encourage you to take a look at your life and just see where you want to be told how to do something, or else you're not going to do it. If you have a tendency to do this, you will need to override your brain's resistance to uncertainty and to failure. That voice that tells you, I need to know exactly how to do this or else. Or the voice that says, if this doesn't work the way I was told, I'm done. And there might be people who have gone before you and done what you want to do, but that doesn't mean that their way is necessarily your way. You have to be open to sometimes having a general idea or sometimes having no idea at all, but being willing to take enough wrong action until you get it right. And the secret to knowing how is in the willingness to take action. When you want to know how, the how is really in the doing. You have to be willing to move past confusion and doubt and resistance and figure it out by learning, trying, practicing, and doing. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the 4-step process to help you figure it out. The challenging thing about wanting to know how is that you're always trying to find someone or something that has your answer. Like having a GPS for your car, you're always looking outside of yourself to take you from point A to point B. Having a GPS when you're taking a trip is great, but what happens when it doesn't work, or when it doesn't actually know that there is a detour that was just put up by a road crew an hour ago? The convenience of not having to think while you're driving and just being able to mindlessly follow the directions given is what most of us have become accustomed to. But unfortunately, we can blindly follow and trust the technology of the GPS without realizing it doesn't have all the answers. It has a general knowledge, but until you are driving and experiencing the road in real time, you cannot rely on the GPS to anticipate every subtle nuance of roadway activity. You also wouldn't completely end your trip, turn around and go home just because the GPS can't anticipate every obstacle. Right? You would never get anywhere if every time you encountered a pothole or an accident or a detour, you would never get anywhere if you just gave up and came back to where you started. So let me tell you, once I was taking a 5-hour drive in upstate New York, and I was mindlessly driving while the GPS told me every single turn to take, which was fine. But then all of a sudden, the voice of the GPS said, "Danger, you are no longer on the roadway, exit immediately." And I was totally confused and freaked out, and I almost got into an accident because I had slowed down so much to make sense of what the GPS was saying that the car behind me had to swerve to avoid hitting me. And when I had pulled over, when I looked at the GPS screen, it was showing me driving through a field, not on the highway that I was on. There had been construction that was done on this particular roadway in the last 6 months that had rerouted the highway, and the GPS wasn't aware of this change to the roadway. That's why it gave me this warning. So having a general direction is important when you need to know how to get from point A to point B, but nothing can replace your own decisions about how to make that guidance your own and to have it work for your unique situation. To have a mentor or a coach to offer you some direction is great. I'm all about that, but you have to take responsibility for what you do after receiving the general direction. And one of the most important lessons that I have learned in my own work with the Life Coach School is that the difference between being told something versus discovering something for yourself is everything. You can be told how to get started on something, but you're the one that has to come up with your unique way to get there. And the 4-step process that I was taught to discover the how starts with first imagining yourself sitting down and asking an expert everything you wanted them to tell you about how to do something. What questions would you want answers to? What would you want to know? And once you've done that, the 4 steps are the following. Step number 1, with those quote unquote expert answers, now you need to approach the things that you want to know how to do as someone who knows the answers, which starts by taking a guess at what might work. What could you do today to figure out what might work for you? So what's helpful is to practice the thought, maybe I could, ... fill in the blank, or I guess I could try, ... fill in the blank. So step number 2 is whatever you decide in step number 1, try it multiple times. The biggest hurdle that we have to achieving anything is giving into our brain's natural tendency to give up when we don't succeed right away or when we are uncomfortable in the space of not knowing. We want other people to tell us what to do because we don't want to wait and because we are so afraid of failure. So now step number 3, you want to pay attention to the actions you're taking and the results that you're getting. I like to treat this like a science experiment where you are making observations and you're gathering data from the actions that you've taken. Notice what is and isn't working and then make adjustments as needed without letting your brain give you all the reasons why you shouldn't even bother. Don't forget, it's going to do that. And then step number 4 is if you don't get the results you wanted, make a decision to try something else. Go back to step 1 and repeat as long as necessary. So GPS is great, but you've got to get on the road and drive in order to get where you want to go. You have to take action. You have to notice whether it's getting you the results that you want, make corrections as needed, take some more action, and figure out your unique journey. If you are only taught to repeat back what you're told to do, you will never create the confidence to move beyond what you've been taught. You'll always be looking over someone else's shoulder to figure out how, making you dependent on their wisdom and their direction, and then holding them accountable for your success. You are a smart, capable woman who may need a little guidance, that's fine, but in the end, you can figure out how to do more things than you probably give yourself credit for. If you want to know how, your belief in yourself is really what you need more than anything else. The skill of learning how to know how is something that will help you both personally and professionally. So when you know how to figure out how, there's nothing and no one that's stopping you from achieving your goals because the how is discoverable by you in the doing. So in summary, the how-to movement has grown so big that we now have websites like WikiHow dedicated to teaching you how to do almost everything, and entire networks like the DIY network to make any home project seem doable. There's nothing wrong with needing to know how when you've never done something before, but the issue is when needing to know how stops you from moving forward at all with a goal or giving up when it gets difficult. There might be people who have gone before you and done what you want to do, but that doesn't mean their way is your way. And finally, when you want to know how, the how is really in the doing. All right, there you have it. It's episode 89, the 4-step process when you want to know how. I have looked back at my life and how many things that I didn't do because I needed or believed that I needed someone to tell me how many things I stopped doing because it got a little difficult, and how many things, once I learned this skill from the life coach school, how many things that I have accomplished. I really have to give myself a pat on the back. Even just this podcast I never did a podcast before, but I learned a little bit how, and then I did. And I made mistakes, and I made corrections, and I made more mistakes, and I made corrections, and I never gave up. That was the key. It's fine to get a general idea of how to do something, but you have to just take action. And then you have to learn from that action and make adjustments and learn a little bit more, and not let your brain tell you that, well, if you don't know how, somebody else has your answer. That's not true. You are more capable than you've probably been giving yourself credit for. All right, I hope this was helpful. And please share this podcast with anybody that you think might need a little boost, a boost of confidence. And I hope you guys have a great week. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like what you heard, be sure to click subscribe on your podcast app so you never miss an episode. At CPA Moms, we pride ourselves on being the e-harmony of the accounting world, making it possible for business owners to have their accounting needs met by amazing CPAs that are moms just like you. Whether you are an accountant interested in growing your own solo mompreneur business, or perhaps you are looking for flexibility to work from home, or maybe you are looking to grow your current firm or team, CPA Moms has what you are looking for. Check us out at cpa-moms.com.